my claim to fame with my accounting practice is I went up against the IRS 13 times. I never lost.
You and I have said this before. It's not a secret. We want to shake up asset management. One of the greatest compliments I've ever received and have received is when people reach out to me years and years later and say, man, you really made an impact on my life.
If I have a paper trail, I can document everything.
Really don't want to get involved with a pyramid scheme. Like, I just don't want it. She's like, you need to go home and research this company. Lo and behold, I've said it before, it's like a $16 billion single owner company in real estate. So I was like, oh, I think a majority of people just want to have an impact, whether that's your individual self or your impact on your family, on a nonprofit that you're working with. And we actually performed in the opening ceremonies of the 2000 Olympics. So I was one of the performers. All right. We made it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. We've been talking about the podcast for quite some time.
Over a year.
Respectfully, we started it. We tried it. It's trial and error.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes we have so many recordings, but they have not been released.
No, they haven't.
Why is that?
Well, I think part of it is we're perfectionists.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, we're perfectionists.
We just want it a certain way. We want it to be a certain way, and it just hasn't been. So
Right.
we're hoping that this is it, that we
Yes.
have reached what we want it to be and how we want it to be.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about this on a different topic, but everything is timing.
Yes.
You know, we had particularly were talked about like for something different, like sending flowers to particular people, and it didn't work out the timing, and it sent later. And those people reached out and said, that was the perfect timing. I
Yes.
needed those flowers at that specific time. So yes, we have recordings,
We do.
but we didn't release them for XYZ reasons. We have the topics we talked about, which I feel like now we're in the right space. This is where it should be, where we need it to be.
It's so interesting, too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how many we have. Probably 10,
10.
12.
And we're just going to re-record them, like the
Exactly.
topics, not like verbatim, obviously.
Right, but we've done it twice.
Yes.
This is our
third
third time.
time.
Third time's the charm.
That's right. Third time's a charm. There you go. That's the phrase. Yeah, this is awesome. I figured since this is going to be technically our re-grand opening, if I may, of our podcast, I felt like people who have watched us, whether that's on our Facebook, we've talked about who Ying Yang is and why we started it. And again, we might talk about that in the future. But something I wanted to talk about today is who is Cindy Harding and who is Andrew Suarez. I think that's important. Like, people should know who we are, our background, get to know us a little bit better. What are your thoughts?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they know us like they know I'm the asset manager, but do they really know like who I am?
Right. Who is Cindy?
Yeah.
Like, what is her background and so on and so forth? Who's Andrew? There was a funny story. I told you that I was at a conference in Florida. The craziest thing happened this year, and people were talking about Yin Yang and had no idea who I was. And you know, like it was an awesome feeling because like, well, you got to talk to this group Yin Yang, the asset management, so on and so forth. So I want people to understand who Cindy is and how we got started in the Yin Yang. But so yeah, I have my notes here, and just for those who may or may not wear, but I heard your legal name is Cindy Tam Harding.
That's so not true.
Is that not true?
It's not true.
Cindy Tam, Tam, the asset manager? No, you didn't legally change it to that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I was wrong. My research, I'm going to fire my investigator.
Yeah. You fired the detective.
Fire the detective. He failed horribly. So Cindy Harding.
Yes.
Who is Cindy? Like, where did you grow up? What's your history? Like, let's start from the very, very beginning.
Very beginning.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I grew up kind of all over. My dad was in the military when I was really young. We lived overseas. So I lived in Okinawa and I lived in the Philippines. News to people.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Wow.
And then we went back to our roots, I guess, in North Florida. And so I graduated from high school there. But what's really interesting when I think about like my childhood, I played secretary.
Okay.
So I had this old Underwood
People play with
typewriter.
blocks, but no, you were like, I'm not playing with Barbies. I'm not playing with blocks.
Yeah.
You got little calculator.
Yes. I seriously, I had index cards and I would type up, like I had clients and I would type up like their, I don't know, invoices and stuff. And I would have my brother deliver them around the neighborhood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I
That's
played Office.
You played Office.
I played Office when I was like 10.
Yeah.
And I had a little box that I kept all my index cards in for my clients. So
Yeah.
I think, that was probably the beginning of why I became an accountant. That was when we lived in Panama City, Florida. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Crawfordville, which is a little tiny town outside of Tallahassee.
Okay.
And that's really where my family is from. My grandparents lived there. We lived in a house that my great-grandfather built. And it's a historical house. Mm-hmm. And my brother is now the sheriff of that county.
Wow, so, that's cool.
Yeah, deep roots there. Yeah. And so I became an accountant. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, exactly. You still have the original one?
Actually, I do have an Underwood typewriter.
That's what it's called. I'm just giving you.
Yeah, no, I really do. When you're on a Zoom call, if you look like over my shoulder, you'll see the Underwood. But my first job, actually, I was in high school taking accounting, and I went to the local Western Auto, which I don't even know if they have those anymore, but it's kind of like an Ace Hardware. And I just went in and said, I'm taking accounting in high school, and I want to practice what I am learning. Could I work for you? And they're just like, we're not hiring, but thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I just thought I'd ask. And then the next day they called me up and they're like, you know what? You had the initiative to come in and ask, and we're going to hire you. And so I worked for them all the way through high school and actually in a couple of years into college. And so I just immediately took to accounting. Mm-hmm. And so then I got married, moved to Arizona. And in Arizona, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I opened an accounting practice where I just worked with small businesses. And I could do that when my kids were sleeping. So my kids really didn't even know I had a business for a long time because I always did, I went to their football games. I did the homeroom mom stuff. And I just worked at night when they were asleep. Those
are good memories for the kids. Mm-hmm. Like they will always remember that.
Yeah. When they got to be older, then I would take them with me in the afternoons when I picked them up from school because I had to go meet with clients. And I had one client. Our joke was our relationship lasted longer than all of his girlfriends. Because I was his bookkeeper for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Although he said I was worse than his ex-wives because I would show up and write checks and take money from him every month.
Yeah, men don't like to divulge accounting information. So I say, okay, Cindy, you're closer to me than some of my exes are.
Yeah, because I always took money.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then I did that, and I loved it because I would help them understand, where's their money coming from? What's driving their income? Mm-hmm. What they could do to increase their income, and then also what they could do to save money. And because sometimes small businesses, they don't really pay attention.
Yeah.
They just at the end of the month, where's my money? And they're like, there's no way I made this much money.
Yeah.
They look at their checkbook, and I'm like, but you did.
Yep.
And so it was just a really good experience for me working with them, kind of consulting them and helping them get through that and working with them. So for me, I loved it. And so that was a very easy segue into asset management because you're working with property management and helping them. How can we make more money? What can we do to increase our income?
Yeah.
And what can we do to decrease our expenses? But yeah, I just feel like I was kind of always destined.
Yeah. Now that I learned that you were playing with, like you said, index cards.
I had my little clients, and I seriously would send my brother on his bicycle to around the neighborhood to deliver invoices.
Cindy at 4 is auditing me already. Dang. I'm getting audited.
I will say my claim to fame with my accounting practice is I went up against the IRS 13 times. I never lost.
Nice.
I never lost to the IRS. Yeah, knock on wood.
That's awesome.
Paper trail, though.
Yeah.
Anyone that knows me, even like with asset management, I have to have a paper trail.
Yeah.
If I have a paper trail, I can document everything, and that's the way I do it. You know, you don't lose that way.
So if anybody knows Cindy, which some of you do, some of you don't, but I wanted to know, I know family is very important to you. That's like your core thing, your core why. You mentioned a few things I wanted to clarify. You mentioned brother, so I was interested to know how many siblings you have, number one. Number two, you briefly mentioned your husband, which is an amazing, amazing person. I love him to death. And then you also love him in the most professional way, as we say. And then you also have children of your own. So I love for you to kind of go back to your siblings. And then I love to learn about how you met Lynn and then that journey and all the quirks and fun things about that. And then where now you have two beautiful sons.
Two daughters in love.
Two daughter-in-laws and son-in-laws. Yeah. So kind of go back to the beginning of it. You said you had some siblings.
So I have siblings, yeah. So I'm the oldest, which probably makes me bossy.
Yeah. You had to run the house. You know?
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of the original five. And then my parents divorced. And then both my parents remarried. My dad had two more children with his second wife. So I have two half siblings. My half brother was killed in a construction accident. So I just have one half sibling sister. And then I met my husband when I was young.
How young were you?
Well, let's see. We've been married 41 years.
But you're only 45.
I know.
How is that even possible?
I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. I must have been like 4 when I got married.
Yeah.
Well, we were 20 when we married. I met him because of his mother. Isn't that interesting?
Is it arranged marriage or pretty much?
No.
I'm going to meet my son. He's very nice. That southern accent. Very nice.
Actually, I didn't. I lived in Florida, but I moved to Utah to nanny. Mm-hmm. And the people that I was their nanny.
Was he you were babysitting him? Are you a cradle robber?
No.
Okay. Lynn's like, yeah, I'm only 36.
No, actually, his mother was the babysitter for the people that I moved to nanny. Mm. And so I met her to meet her and to meet the children. And she said the first time she saw me, she knew I was going to marry him.
Aw.
Isn't that funny?
That's really nice.
But he worked out of town.
Okay.
And so I didn't meet him for like 3 months. So her and I became really good friends. Isn't that interesting?
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
You became friends with your mother-in-law before you even knew that was going to be your mother-in-law.
Correct. And so we were just really good friends. I just loved her to death. I thought she was just an amazing woman. She had 12 children and just super patient, just a wonderful lady. So I would nanny during the day. And then in the evenings, you'd think I'd had enough of children. Yeah. I would go to her house of, old Mother Hubbard that had so many children she didn't know what to do. I would go to their house and just help her with her kids. And after 3 months, Lynn came home, and I met him. Mm-hmm. And I just fell in love with him the minute I saw him.
Like straight out of the 80s movies when like the slow-mo, he comes in.
Yeah.
Did he have short hair, long hair? What did he have?
Long,
so it was
hair.
totally like a Fabio moment, like the air was hitting it. And and the hair was blowing.
Yeah, and he had muscles like Thor.
Oh, wow. Chris Hemsworth, back in the days.
Yeah, but he thought I was 14.
He thought you were 14? Like, what's going on with that story?
He did. I guess I looked 14. Yeah. And his sister was always introducing her friends to him. And so he was like, why are you always introducing me to your little friends? But he discovered I wasn't. I was actually 19. And I needed to buy a car. So his mom asked him to please help me buy a car. So he had 2 weeks off and we went and bought a car together. And actually, when I say together, I really mean that. Like, I never made a car payment that he didn't help me with. So we spent 2 weeks and just dated those 2 weeks. And then he went out of town. When he came back into town, we had Sunday dinner together. And remember, now there's 10 children sitting around the table. He's the second oldest. And they're all, whispering and carrying on. And, he just got so mad and slammed his fist on the table. And, we're not dating. And everyone stop. And I'm like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So after dinner, we went for a walk. We're near elementary school. And we were just at the playground, just, hanging out on the swings and stuff. And he just kind of moved toward me. I didn't know what he was doing. And I said, what are you doing? And
Get away from me.
He went to pick me up. And that's, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going to marry you. And
Thor said he's going to marry you.
Yes. He said, I'm going to marry you. And I just said, okay.
Okay, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
He did tell me later that when he said that, he had no thought in his mind that he was going to say that, and he immediately regretted it. But it was too late to take it back.
Yeah.
And so we went back to his house, and we're like, we probably need to tell your mom that we're going to get married. And there's nowhere like in a house to tell, something private. So we took her in the bathroom, shut the door, and just said, we've decided to get married. And she started crying and just said, I knew that you guys were going to get married the first time I saw Cindy.
Oh, nice. Happy tears.
Yeah, very happy tears. Took us 9 months, just to get the wedding together. But we've been married 42 years. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine my daughter telling me, saying, hey, Dad, I'm going to marry this guy. I'm like, how long have you known this person? 2 weeks? Are you crazy?
I know.
No way. That's a different time.
Yeah, it is. It is. But, we've had our ups and downs. And, but through it all, I just love him. He is such a good guy.
He is.
He really, I don't know.
Lynn's a good dude. Like I said it before, just very good, humble guy, loves his family, loves his country, loves his job. Like, he's just overall a good guy.
Yeah.
And very easy to talk to. Makes great desserts.
He does make great desserts. Yes. So then we were married 6 years and had our first son. And
you have 2 sons, right?
We have 2 sons. Our first son. Now, when we decided to have our first baby, we decided that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I actually made more money than Lynn. And so, yeah.
That's a big jump or choice.
Yeah, it was a very big choice.
Yeah.
And we did cloth diapers, and I shopped the sales, and
pinching pennies.
We did. But we decided we were very equally yoked. Mm-hmm. And so we just made decisions together, and we really decided to work hard together. And so everything we've done, we've built it together. And it's never been, like I said, when we bought the car, at that time he didn't know, he was really committing. But I never made a car payment without him, even though, at that time he had no idea. We never had a checking account that we weren't together, and it's never been like yours and mine. It's always been ours.
Yep.
And, it's just the way it's been. And then we had our second son 2 years later, and now they're in their 30s. And Lorik and his wife, Andrea, just had their first baby.
Yeah, congratulations, Grandma.
Thank you.
You've been waiting for this.
Oh, yeah. They've been married almost 12 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Long time coming.
His name is Leo. And
Very
he's
cute.
just so sweet.
Yeah.
And we love it. So,
what is it like being the difference between, I love asking this question, I've asked my in-laws this before, the difference between having a grandbaby and your own baby? It's a different kind of love. It's just different. What emotions do you feel? What am I looking forward to feeling when I become a grandpa myself?
I think it's because you love your children, and then when you see your grandchildren, it just helps you realize the love that you have for your children that they're going to have for that child. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
But it actually makes you love your children more and just really appreciate them. It's been really fun. He's only a week old, so I don't know. I'm kind of new to the grandparent
Got the training
thing.
wheels on the grandparent
yes,
thing.
Yes.
No, but I did hear it's a very special feeling, and it's sometimes somebody once told me that the reason why you also love your grandchildren so much is because you see your own child in them.
Yes.
And you're going into memories of like, wow, I remember holding my baby.
Yeah.
And then you see a little bit of your child in that new person.
Yeah, it's been a very fun journey. I have to say, I have enjoyed my life. Mm-hmm. Like when my kids were little, I never wished away the time. Mm-hmm. Like when they were like 6 and 8, I didn't wish that they were teenagers. Like I just loved every moment, different stages that they were in. I loved it. I embraced it and just enjoyed it. And now that they're adults, we have so much fun together. Like we love going on family vacations together. We love doing things together. We love getting together. Sometimes it's a little interesting. We have crazy stories.
Yeah.
But we love it.
That's family.
Yeah, it is family. So I have some questions for you, Andrew.
I think that's the end of the podcast, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm just kidding. Shoot, I am an open... No, I'm not going to say that statement. I'm not an open book, but yes, go ahead.
Well, I want to know about you because I heard that you played the drums and that you were the drum major. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, how are you like out on the field, like beating drums and then running up the ladder and directing the band?
Yeah,
so
exactly. So a little bit about myself is I was born and raised in Orange County, California. Been there all my life. I don't have an Okinawa story or a Florida story, a Utah story, unfortunately, but I loved my childhood in the sense that I was very, very involved with sports. I was raised by a single mom, 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 older sisters.
Oh.
I am the youngest. So people are like, oh, you must have been spoiled. You must have been this and that. I was like, no. It's like literally the opposite of what you think it is. Think about it this way. It's like I have 3 older sisters, my mom, so I'm the only boy in the house. I am the last one to get the bathroom. I'm the last one to get to use the restroom for because they're in there getting ready and so on and so forth. I'm the last one to get the bedroom. I'm the runt of the litter. All of my clothes in elementary school, middle school were hand-me-downs of like shirts and T-shirts and whatever from my older sisters. So I wasn't like neglected by any means, but it was just like, oh, everybody kept saying, oh, you're the golden child and you must have been spoiled. I'm like, no, it was actually, I remember having a girlfriend in high school and we broke up and I was crying at home, and a funny story and then I'll move on. But my sister's like, who hurt you? And like, what's going on? And I'm going to go get my friends. And she literally got her girlfriends from high school and they went to that girl's house and then pounded on the door like, you get out here, BIT. Get out here right now. You hurt my brother. So that's a big sister. That is a
very protective.
Very protective of me. But yeah, so raised by my single mom, 3 older sisters, very close to me in the sense that I played football when I was very young, so flag football before pads, and then I went to Junior All-American, which is equivalent to Pop Warner. I played football for many years until high school. I also played baseball. So my sister was like, no, you're not going to get in trouble. You're going to stay out of trouble. I'm going to put you in sports. So baseball, football, baseball, football, baseball, football. So I did that for a long time. And then when I got into junior high, that's when I started to get into drumming. I picked it up because I had a sister of mine who performed, and for those who know, it's called drum corps. You travel multiple states, and you're performing for different. You pay to be in there, but you're performing for different stadiums. And so I really thought that was cool. I was like, oh, that's super cool. I want to learn to drum to do my thing. So I picked it up. I started drumming in junior high school, and then I realized when I was in high school, I'm like, I'm not the average Joe in this. I'm actually picking it up pretty well. So I started taking more lessons, and a funny story with the lessons is I was always going to my friend's house, which that friend, his brother was the instructor. And so the instructor picked up on, he's like, dude, you're always at the house hanging out and you're practicing, but you're not doing it right. So now I have to teach you. He's like, dude, you're getting free lessons. You're getting free lessons, right? And so I think my junior year, he was like, you're not getting free lessons anymore. He's like, you're going to come with me and teach my other high schools. So imagine I'm a junior in high school teaching other seniors and juniors or whatever. He's like, just don't tell them what grade you're in, or don't tell them how old you are, because they're not going to like listen to you.
Right.
But now I'm teaching as a junior, and my mom, I'm like, hey mom, I'm going to be with John. She's like, where? She's like, I'm going to go with John. Okay, that's fine. And I wouldn't come home, Cindy, until like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, because these rehearsals would go super late. So sometimes as a junior, I'd come home, or then I would go off and, teach and stuff. So that was a good story. But the reason, so I was a drum captain and I was a drum major. So I had to pick and choose. Like sometimes when it came to drum major for my school, it was actually the one in front of the band during the parades.
Okay.
Right. So my junior year, I finally got the opportunity because the senior of the high school finally left. So I auditioned, I got it. So I drum majored at the front of parades, and that was fun. It was fun because I was like, I'd go to different cities and they're like, okay, you're the leader, count, like blow the whistle and do all this stuff. So that was a lot of fun. But then when drumming wise, I was more of like marching band, like in high school for the halftime shows and competition. So a fun fact that a lot of people don't know is that my freshman year, I got to travel to Europe because I was a drummer. So I got to travel. I was there for 2 weeks or so. We were called the Kennedy High School Fighting Irish. So we went to London, we went to England, like we did a cool tour, and we got to perform in the St. Patrick's Day Parade over there.
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then my senior year, there was an opportunity. I graduated 2001, but it was like right in 2000. My band director knew somebody that said, hey, there's the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, Australia. We're looking for performers. And so we got invited, and there you go. As a senior in high school, I'm going to Australia for 3 weeks, and I'm training, and then we actually performed in the opening ceremonies of the 2000 Olympics. So I was one of the performers in that.
Wow.
So that was really cool. Like, where am I going to ever have that opportunity? So people like the jocks, were like, oh, you're just a band geek, which I was. Like, now that I look at it, I'm 40 plus years old. I'm like, yeah, I was totally a band geek. But I used to remember telling them, like, yeah, but I don't remember the football team going anywhere outside of even the state.
Right. Much less to Australia.
Yeah. So my freshman year, went to England, Europe. Senior year, went to Australia. After that, I got opportunities. People would call me like, hey, I need a drummer for this, a show called the Teen Choice Awards. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it was called the Teen Choice Awards. So I was like, yeah, I can do it. So then I go to rehearsal, and I got to meet like Jennifer Love Hewitt, Brandy at the time, Mario Lopez, just different actors at that time.
The Teen Choice Awards, like on TV?
On TV. I was on TV.
I know what that is.
Yeah.
Really?
So if one of the seasons or episodes, or I don't remember, but they're like, okay, you're going to stay in this green room, and then when you're ready to come out, whatever, as I performed, and then I'd have to go back to the green room and sit, and then wait till okay, now you guys go, like, and play again. So drumming was a really big part of my life. Hence my email is Andrew DM 44. So that's where DM stands for, drum major.
I did not
And then
know
44 is connected to me because that was my football number and my baseball number. So Andrew DM 44, 40 some years later, I've never let go of it. It's always been my personal email.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. Raised up Orange County. And then after that, I had, after high school, I taught for a little bit, but then I didn't really have like a W-2. I was kind of just being lazy. Now that I think about it, I was just being lazy, doing my own thing. And then I remember my mom busting down the door and said, you need to get a job. Like, this is not good enough. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm not going to get a job. I'm fine. I'm doing whatever. I don't even know what I was doing. There was no Uber Eats to work or nothing like that. And so she busted down the door and said, like, you need to get a job. And your friend works at the gas station by your high school. Sean, I just saw him. He says they need a person. Let's go right now. My first job was a gas attendant. And that was back, it wasn't a long time ago, but now it's 24. So 23 years ago. Yeah, 23 years ago, they still had full service gas station.
I wish they still had them. I'm not going to lie.
So for those who don't know what that is, you'd pull up, ding, ding, and then there goes Andrew.
Yes.
Drums and all. And so yeah, I'd go out there and say, hi, how you doing today? Great. You know, and they'd hear the clunk. I'm like, oh, okay, you want me to check the oil? So lift it up, check the oil, and then whatever.
Pump the gas.
And they give me the card. They just hand the card out. I grab the card, put it in there. How much can I put? Fill it up. All right, fill it up. Close it. Close the hood. Yeah, your oil's good, or you need oil, whatever. Okay, can you put in a quart? All right, it's a quart. And I go get the quart, put it in there, and charge them for that or whatever. So yeah, that was a humbling experience, to say the least. And then I was over that. I was like, I didn't want to do that for that long.
No.
So I got out of there. A good friend of mine who now, that friend is the godfather of my daughter. His name is John. We call him Juanito. He worked right next. He would always come and give me crap. Like, by the way, he's like, you're a freaking gas attendant. Like,
Did you have a shirt that said Andrew?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I did have the patch for sure. 76. Shout out 76 gas station. Yeah, it was right there. And he worked at a Ralph's grocery store. So I did that for a little bit. And then I think it was 2003, 2, 3, 4, something like that. If you look in history, the supermarkets went in strike. So I picketed. I could say I've been a gas attendant full service. I had a picket. I was on a picket line for however long the grocery stores were on strike. So I got to do that. And then after that, I got into retail, and I worked retail for a while, which I learned a lot of my managerial skills, I will say, because that was my first managerial position. I got to manager of an audio visual company. It's called Super Autobax, super huge in Japan, speaking of Japan. And I actually got to travel to Japan because of work. They sent me there.
Nice.
Because they were like, we want to teach you the DNA of our company. And so we're going to send you to Japan for less than a week. But it was amazing. I love the culture there. Like, it's so nice and so clean and so friendly. Like, I just love it. I love it. I need to go back there, actually. So I got to go and travel there, learn the culture. I love that company. Unfortunately, it had to close on the America division. So then again, I'm out like, need to find another job. And so at that time, that's where my journey starts in real estate. So after that, a friend of mine said, hey, I know you need a job. I work for a company and you should look into it. And then,
That's when you thought it was a Ponzi scheme.
That's why I thought it was a Ponzi scheme. And I told my friend Sean, she goes by Shauna. I was like, Shauna, I don't know. Like, I just really don't want to get involved with a pyramid scheme. Like, I just don't want to. She's like, you need to go home and research this company. And lo and behold, I've said it before, it's like a $16 billion single owner company in real estate. So I was like, I'm horribly wrong. So I apologize. And that's the days, they don't do this anymore, but you would get a paper application or a paper resume, hand it to somebody, it would go on a desk. And that's how I started in my multifamily. I went straight to multifamily. I didn't go into single family, any experience. I didn't have any. I know there's a lot of people who said, I started my journey because my dad or mom was a realtor or was a flipper or something like that. And that's how I got started. Mine was directly into large multifamily. So, big apartments. So I just kept learning and growing in that division, and the rest is history. So that's my kind of like work side. My personal side, my wife will tell you she's the first person I ever dated. She's like, no one before me counts. I am their first. But yes, so you know her, but my wife's name is Wendy. And I met her actually totally different time, because yours was a very cool story of like you met him through a friend and a fan. Like, mine was just different. It's not as cool. It's I met her on an app. Full disclosure, I met her on an app, which actually it shouldn't get so much demise, or it shouldn't be frowned upon, because it was actually the perfect, like, somebody's like, hey, I think like this is a really good fit for you. This is a really good person.
Right.
I've dated people previously. Obviously, that girl who broke my heart, and my sister had to chase her down.
Right.
But no, it was nice. I met my wife, and our first date was at Disneyland, downtown Disney, or Disney California Adventure. And it was like just meant to be, because, like, you find that person who's your match. And, it's like there was a reason why things didn't work out for previous relationships. And so when I met her, she's she's witty, she's sassy, she's sexy, she's funny. I have to put sexy because if I don't, she's gonna smack me later and say, "You forgot to say that." I know, but she's gorgeous, way out of my league. Full, I don't deny that she's out of my league. I married up, is what they said. Was that what they say, right? Married up.
Yep.
I married up, and when I introduced her, really, like, to me, it was really early on, and there are my friends, like, so we went on one date. Our second date was I brought her to my friend's birthday party because I just wanted to know, like, I was done doing the casual dating,
Right.
and I was like, okay, if my friends are really close with me. So I was like, if I bring them to these close group of guy friends and they give her the pass, then I know that, like, this is going to move forward.
This is on your second date?
Second date. Yeah. No, hey, you got married in 2 weeks, so don't give me crap about introducing the second date. So yeah, the second date, I was like, let's just get to the point. Because if they give me the thumbs up, they have a good judge of character. And I trusted their judgment.
Right.
So we went to the birthday party and we're talking, we're casually, and I could see my buddies giving her, is it banter? Like they're bantering,
Yes.
like checking her, like checking to see if she's worthy, and she's just firing back, like bam, bam, bam. And they're like, this is the one. Like, the previous relationships didn't work for whatever reason. This is the one. This is her. And so she knew it. She's like, yeah, like, that's why I said nobody came before me. I am the one that's supposed to be with you.
Wow.
And so we dated for, I want to say we dated for 2 years. I would say 2 years, 1 year to 2 years. And then that's when I knew, okay, I need to make a decision. Am I going to marry this girl or what's going to happen? So then I started saving up. But it's a funny story I want to share because I know if my wife is watching this, she's going to say, yeah, it's funny. But when I was dating her, like, I was saving up money for the ring. Right. It's not something that I could just go in like, hey, here's tons of money. And blah, blah, blah. I really wanted to pay it cash. I remember that was my thing. I'm going to pay this ring cash. I'm not going to get a loan for it. I'm not going to put it on my credit card. So I was loaning. And I remember there was a funny story that we went to Vegas. Like, we love Vegas. That's how I also know she's my wife, meant to be. So we went to Vegas and I was working at Zillow at the time. I was working at Zillow and I got I hit my commission numbers or whatever. And I was like, yes, I'm going to get a really good check. So I got the good check and I remember celebrating, and I went. Do you know what bottle service is?
No.
Okay. So this is so funny. So bottle service is when you go to Vegas. Let's say you go to a nightclub, and you're like, you want to be super uber VIP. So you tell them, hey, I want to buy this bottle that you could buy at the grocery store for $35, $45, maybe $100. You're probably spending $3,000, $2,000, $3,000 for the same bottle. Sometimes
That's bougie.
It's bougie.
Okay.
Yeah, super bougie. So I remember my wife is like, at that time, she's like, just be frugal. I don't want you spending a lot of money. You got to buy me my ring. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to. And, but I'm like, I'm just working, I'm saving. But at that particular time, I was also celebrating because I had all the money that I needed. I knew the ring that I wanted to get her. I saved up. I had it full cash money. And then I hit it's just all lined up, right? I hit my sales quota for Zillow. I knew I was getting the good check. I got the good check. We go to Vegas. We get bottle service. And usually bottle service, you get multiple people because it's so dang expensive. You want to divide and conquer. It was just the four of us, me and another couple. And she's like, you are out of your mind. This is so selfish of you. And she's just leaned
because
into
it's taken away from the ring fund.
The ring fund, exactly. She was so mad, Cindy. She was so mad. And I was like, well, I want to celebrate. And it's also your favorite DJ that's performing. It was DJ Snake. She's like, yeah, I'm like, we're celebrating. She's like, we're not celebrating anything. You're taking away from our future and blah, blah, blah. It was just so funny. I had to share that story. Lord and behold, she did not know that I already had the money. I was already saved up. I was just waiting for the right time to propose to her, which wasn't happening until October. And the reason why I know it was October because her family was flying in from Mexico. And she had other family flying in from Seattle. And we were all going to be in one place for she has two daughters previously. It was going to be a quinceañera. And I know what's really important for you is family.
Right. For
us as family. I think it's like a cultural thing. Family is very important. So I knew that we were going to have extended family in the same location, that I'm never going to have this opportunity again. And I knew I wanted to propose to her. I wasn't in a bathroom. I didn't ask her in a bathroom. But I was like, no, we're going to have a bunch of people in one space, one area. So this has got to be it. I got to just take advantage of every opportunity that presents itself. And this was that. So I remember she was just livid. She didn't want to have anything to do with me after that. She thought she's like, I'm going to get kind of tipsy and so mad at you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't even know, like I have the ring already and I have the money and whatever. I have the money for the ring already. But yeah, it was just a funny story. Now we can laugh about it. Now she's like, oh my gosh, the whole time you had it. And, I was so mad at you. I could have just dumped you at that point. And there's a lot of other funny stories, but that was a good one. And I think she told you how I bamboozled her into dating me in the first place.
No.
Did I tell you that story?
No.
Okay, real quick, I'll tell you the story. When I was working for my management company, the $1 billion one, I was an on-site manager at a property in Newport Beach, right by Fashion Island, which is like multi-million-dollar area, like lots of expensive homes. If you guys look up Newport Beach, there's always like multi-million-dollar homes. So I worked at a property that had 24-hour guard security gate. You had to drive up, security guard, had to buzz you in. Concierge service, trash pickup from your front door service, like really, really nice. 24-hour gym, blah, blah, blah. So I remember when I started dating her, I was like, hey, Wendy, do you want to come over to my place? I gave her the address. Like, oh, wow, she must have saw Newport Beach, blah, blah, blah. So then I told the security guard, I was like, hey, when she comes, like, don't let her in right away. Say, like, call me, verify, make it super, whatever. I'm having this girl come over and date me and to come over for a date. And when she did, she's like, wow, this is so nice. This is like I'm totally like making it super high end, which it was, but it's still like, and then we started dating. And then like, I swear I already knew I was leaving that property. I was leaving. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to leave here. I'm not going to be able to live here. And I was moving back in with my mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So she was like thinking, oh man, I jackpot, baby. I felt the guy, he's like living in Newport, making all this money. Look at this nice place. And then we started dating after the date with the birthday party and my things. And I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I got to move out. She's like, oh, okay. Like, where are you moving to? Another place in Newport? I'm like, no, I'm moving back in with my mom. She was like, what? You bamboozled me. You got me good. I'm like, well, you like me already. So you're stuck with me. Yeah. So that was a funny story. I totally bamboozled her. But, now, thankfully, we have a total of 5 beautiful girls. So I myself have just welcomed 2 new girls to our family. So we are now a family of 7, which seems a lot to me. But like you were saying, a family of how many?
Well, my husband's from 12 and I'm from 7.
7. And that was normal. But now today's like, oh my gosh, a family of 7? That's crazy. So we have 5 beautiful girls: Diane, Sophia, Victoria, Alessandra, and Isabella. And that is my core. That is my everything.
That's a lot of estrogen.
That's a lot of it. And I have one more in my household. We have my mother-in-law who lives with us, who helps us, and my father-in-law. That's it. So it's 2 guys and a whole lot of ladies.
Wow.
So it's a fun journey, because it's recorded. I have to say I love it. It's fun. She's gonna smack me later, but no, like it's been. If you see my posts on my personal pages, like my daughters or family vacations, I think that's why we are so similar. Like family is very important to us, and so I'm glad we got to do this. Because we got to share a little bit of stuff that people don't know about Cindy and Andrew. No. And I think hopefully they take a little fun stuff away from it. It's like, wow, okay, so that's who they are. Yeah. They're not just known as the asset manager or the drummer, drum major. And we've talked a little bit about who is yin yang, but I want to talk about like who is yin yang and why is it so important in today's market, right? Let's talk about there's different needs for different roles in a syndication, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think more now than ever, asset management needs to be discussed. And so I'd love to talk about that, and then what's in the future for yin yang as well. So first and foremost, for a recap, who is yin yang? How do we get started? Let's start with that one.
How about we start with where?
Okay, where? There you go. And where are we ordering lunch today?
Yes.
Today's podcast sponsored by
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Yeah, exactly.
So we met at Chick-fil-A.
We met at Chick-fil-A, and that was in year 2022 or 23. I want to say 22.
22.
22.
It was in 22.
We're in 24. Okay,
Right.
So,
So
2 years
we
ago.
were at a convention.
Real estate.
And multifamily, people break for lunch and everyone scrambles to grab something.
We didn't know each other.
No, not at all.
I don't think we knew like anything. I don't think I even knew of like, respectfully, I didn't know of you or anything yet. Right.
No.
You didn't know who I was. I didn't know who you were. I went there with my brother.
Right.
And you were there with your team.
Right.
Right.
And we just kind of wanting to share space to sit down to eat.
Yes.
And was like, hey, can we just share this table? And it was just one of those things like you meet someone and you're like, there's just something different about this person. And I feel like they have really good energy.
Yep.
And like the vibe is good.
Yeah.
And that was in, I think October or November. I
don't remember
quite remember, but it was fall time.
Yep. They usually have them in the end of the year, right?
Well, no, I don't know. But
I think that was in
but I do
San
know,
Diego, or was that Florida?
No, it was Phoenix.
Oh, it was in Phoenix. You're right.
It was in
You're right.
Phoenix.
It was in Phoenix.
And it was in the fall. And I just remember that we just kind of kept having a conversation and we were
But
talking.
did we exchange numbers? I don't think we exchanged numbers at that point.
I don't
Was it
really-
just social media somehow?
I think it was social media
Okay.
that we connected.
So we just shared a space,
Yeah. Had a conversation. And then just through social media.
through social media.
And then decided to kind of start talking on the phone a little bit about.
Yeah. And I know you and I have talked about that, but how did that even start?
I really don't know.
I don't know. That's what happens when you get old.
I know. And I'm older than you. So you should,
So I should be
you should
ashamed.
remember. Yeah. You
I don't
need to
know.
remember.
Yes, but somehow, some way,
Yeah,
a message crossed and said,
Yeah, we need to start having a conversation.
start having a conversation. And what
Yeah.
was that beginning of that conversation?
The beginning, I do remember the beginning of it was that because I was really into asset management and I knew that you were into property management.
Yep.
And I felt like there was a need to really level up asset management. And I felt like you could bring a lot to the table through property management and helping asset managers understand how they could perform better, knowing what property managers need.
I will say, like, during this time, let's say we're going to go back into our time machine, 2022, asset management wasn't nearly as discussed about. No, it wasn't like you close a deal, you get it going, and it kind of just let the property manager handle it and make some money.
Right. Well, and people didn't even really assign asset managers. Like it was something that maybe whoever got the short straw ended up being the asset manager because you had specific.
Yeah, what do you mean by short straw? Like, kind of walk us through that.
So if you had a team, you definitely had an underwriter. You definitely had investor relations. You definitely had acquisitions. And then there might be someone who said, well, I can do asset management.
Yeah, it's like the leftovers.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
they got the short straw.
Short straw. I could fill in the blank, and I'll do asset management.
Yeah. But it wasn't like a defined role. I don't really feel like it was defined. And my background being in accounting, I felt like it needed to be defined.
Right.
And I don't feel like properties at that point were successful. Like we were reaching a point where properties were starting to fail, and I could see it in the horizon that they were going to fail. And the days were gone when you could just buy something really cheap, hold it for 5 years, sell it, everyone made money, celebrated, okay, it's all good. Those days were over.
Yeah, you could see it coming.
I could see it coming.
Winter was coming.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk with you about that, about how we could collaborate together. And I wanted to educate people.
Yeah, and I saw there was no education.
Correct.
There still kind of not really is.
There isn't.
There really isn't. There's not a lot. So I think that's definitely what piqued my interest in 2022 is where and I, knowing my background in property management, I'm a property manager, but I don't think as a property manager. I think as an owner already. That's just kind of what was taught to me when I was going through my background. So I definitely also saw the need for it. I was like, there needs to be something where a formal education, especially where my passion is like, I don't like when people are put in positions and they're not given any guidance or education, any structure. And I feel like before we started Yin Yang, there wasn't any formal syllabus education to teach these individuals. It was just like you said, here's a short end of the stick, kind of make sure don't lose my money. Like,
right.
Yeah. And that's not good enough.
Right.
That's not good enough, especially with multi-million dollars on the line.
I was just going to say, you have millions of dollars and you're putting it in the hands of someone that really doesn't even know what they're doing.
Right.
And really, what is their role? What's their responsibility? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, with the syndication, there's a sponsor. But if that sponsor isn't taking an active role in it, then you have someone that's just kind of like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
So wait, you're telling me that there's some sponsors that don't take active roles?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, and I say that jokingly because I know I'm sitting across this from a sponsor, but you take very active role because you're an asset manager. But the reality of it is, unfortunately, there's just some sponsors who don't want to take an active role.
No, they want us, they don't mind signing on the loan, but they don't want to have an active role.
Yeah.
And so, and they don't want to mentor. That's the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. They don't want to mentor. They don't mind taking an active role, but sometimes that active role is too late. Like they step in when the ship has sailed. And
it's already sinking. The Titanic is already sinking.
Yeah, it's already, yeah. And so, I don't know, I wanted to be proactive. And I thought, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing what's happening. There were so many bridge loans. We knew they were coming due. This was right before COVID. And, I didn't have a crystal ball. But just we knew that there were people that were doing bridge loans. And I personally didn't feel like bridge loans were the way to go. There were the bridge loans that didn't have caps on them. And so that was even worse. And I wanted to create a class to teach people how to be an asset manager. And we had so many conversations and it felt like, okay, we need to be in the same space.
Right.
And no distractions, just let's see if we can knock out a syllabus.
Yeah.
Is it even possible?
Yep.
I mean,
what does that look like?
Yeah. Can we do that? And I will admit, I was surprised how fluid it was when we sat down literally at my dining room table.
Yep.
An afternoon, we created the syllabus.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, you had already been thinking about this. This was something.
It is true.
You've kind of been, the wheels have been spinning. It's not something that we just said, hey, let's get together for no reason and sit at a table. The wheels were spinning.
Yes. You
had mentioned it to me, Andrew. I really feel there needs to be an education platform or something for this. I love the idea because I obviously felt that it needed to be as well. And I can bring something to the table with my years and years of experience as a multi-site, multi-level property manager, because sometimes you need to have a perspective of the person who's actually running it. And that's where I could bring my value of, okay, I've run multiple teams. I've run multiple properties, large assets, small assets. So I felt like, yes, it's a good collaboration, a good team effort. And so when we sat there, and you'll know when you're talking to somebody like, okay, does this girl know what she's talking about? Does this guy know what he's talking about? And so we noticed like, okay, yeah, we're syncing. This is meshing. This is really good.
Right.
And so we did. It's just like, we're not getting stuck in analysis paralysis. We're just like, no, let's put pen to paper, write this. Okay. And I know it was something important for both of us is like, we wanted this to be equivalent to like a college level course.
Yes.
Hence the reason why we wanted a syllabus. Hence the reason why we wanted defined week by week what we're viewing.
Right.
Because we talked about it like this course gets to help individuals be prepared for a successful first year.
Right.
By no means where we're saying you're going to get, this is like a doctorate level course, but for somebody who's coming into a syndication model, raise, and they're filling a role of an asset manager, they don't know like what even asset management is. They think it's property management. Let's
they do.
Yeah. They think, oh, that means you're going to take applications and do work orders and renewals and whatever. No, that's not asset management. The way I like to explain asset management is like, you're in a helicopter, you're overseeing, but imagine, let's say this Bill Gates, billionaire, has multiple. He doesn't want to talk with all these different individual property managers. He wants an asset manager to manage it for him so he can enjoy his free time. So that's somebody like Cindy. You are Cindy Tam Harding, who has multiple $1 million assets, and you're responsible to talk to Florida with this day, Texas this day, Tallahassee, whatever, Tennessee this day, Seattle this day, California this day. You have multiple different hats in multiple different states and multiple different cities. So you have to be responsible for all those different assets. So that's the asset manager versus the property manager is the one who have boots on the ground in that city, in that state.
Right.
So that's the easiest, most basic way I can explain the difference between an asset manager and the property manager.
Correct.
Right. So yeah. So, I mean, we definitely got the juices flowing. We realized, okay, this is what we want.
Well, and I think too, I mean, I had been living it.
Yes.
And so, I think our goal was to take someone from day one and to get them through the first year.
Yep.
And I had lived it multiple times.
With different.
Because I had multiple properties.
Right.
And so it was a matter of what do we do day one? How do we get through the year? And so that's how we created the syllabus is what do we, how do we do that? And so it was very logical and very systematic. This is what we do day one. This is what we do for the first month and the first quarter. And then we started talking about, okay, leadership.
Yeah.
How do we help people know how to lead? Because you can't push them, and it's easier to walk with them than to try and push them from behind.
Yeah. Not talking about leadership with asset management is very, I don't want to say negligent, but it's not smart thinking.
No.
Because it is so important because at the end of the day, we keep saying this is a relationship business. So you as the asset manager have to push knobs, twist knobs, whatever that is. And it's not just knobs. These are individuals. These are teams, regional managers, vice presidents. You and I have both been on calls and we're dealing with all different types of people. So in our class, we do talk about the DISC, the personality assessment, and why that's important. We do talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. We talk about that. We talk about inside-out coaching, why inside-out coaching is more favorable than outside-in coaching. And if you don't even know what that is, take our class.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like if you don't practice these skills, I don't care who you are as an asset manager. If you don't have EQ, if you don't have emotional intelligence, like if you can't understand, show empathy and good leadership, no one's going to follow you. You're just one person walking along a path and no one's following you.
Correct.
So you need to have really good leadership and have the IQ. It's important to understand the terminology and the reporting and, how insurance costs and KPIs and budget variance reports and T12s and all of those things. You have to know what that is. But at the same time, this is a relationship business. And so that's why when we created this course, I was like, we talked about leadership. We were like, that is what's going to differentiate a yin yang from any other course, master course that is going to be currently taught, which is not really that many, if anything, in the future. Because no one's going to do that. I really doubt it. I'm going to say it right now. I don't think anybody's going to incorporate a leadership aspects into their asset management. They're going to talk about why hiring the right property manager is important. They're going to talk about KPIs. They're going to talk about no one's going to openly say, but we actively teach leadership in our asset management course.
And we teach it equally.
Exactly. Yes. So like we have a 2-hour class. You teach 1 hour of asset management and I teach 1 hour of leadership. And so they're getting a more well-rounded a course.
Right.
And that's what differentiates us. And that's why I think that brings us to my next question is what do we hope to achieve with Yin Yang? How is this going to change the industry?
We want to level up.
Level up.
We really, really want to level up asset managers so that they are forward thinking. The whole thing is we want to have them be proactive where they're looking ahead at properties, when they're looking ahead at what is the GP going to want. What are we doing with our renewals? What are we doing, with our CapEx? Where are we in our expenses so that they're not being reactive, that they're proactive. because a lot of asset managers are just reactive.
We are teaching our students to play chess while everybody's playing checkers.
Yes.
And so we talk a lot like, why do we start Yin Yang? What do we want to get out of this? We want to shake up the industry. We want to shake up this ecosystem of multifamily and again, there's people who take our course, Cindy, that are not doing apartments. So Cindy, we all obviously talked about how Yin Yang kind of got started, why it's so important, but like, what is this going to ultimately do industry wide? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we just want to change the way asset management is viewed. We want people to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's the way has been reactive.
Yep.
We want to be able to, look forward and have the asset managers, looking, what are we going to do in the future?
Yeah. And I don't even think we can see what kind of impact it will have long term, but I'm curious to see, like, I say this analogy again, but it would be interesting to see if we can get into a DeLorean, go into the future. I say DeLorean a lot because shout out, my favorite movie is Back to the Future, but we could go into the future in a time machine and see what kind of impact this has on the industry. Like, I think it's going to be pretty amazing. You hope it is, because at the end of the day, I think a majority of people just want to have an impact, whether that's your individual self or your impact on your family, maybe it's a nonprofit that you're working with. You and I have said this before. It's not a secret. We want to shake up asset management and what it's known for, what's been being done. We've talked to sponsors. We've talked to other operators, seasoned operators, and many of them were never given any formal instruction or education or guidance. It was more, like you said, it's just kind of figure it out, and no one has done this before. And so I see a huge opportunity in what we're doing to really help people in the future. And, when I was a leader or manager from retail, or when I was with the property management company I was with, one of the greatest compliments I've ever received and have received is when people reach out to me years and years later and say, man, you really made an impact on my life. And what you showed me and taught me and pushed me to do, and that's why we teach leadership, is like, it really changed the way I view things and now what I'm doing from now myself and my family. And I just want to say thank you. So we're putting in the sweat equity. We're putting in the reps right now. We're putting in what we're doing right now. We could both be with their families. You have a brand new baby grandson. I have 2 brand new beautiful twin girls at home. But this is what we said. Like I said earlier, we're in the trenches. Like, we're doing this right now because this is important for the industry. Like, we could easily just be taking a back seat and not worry about it and say, hey, well, it'll do what it do. But we didn't want that. Like, we really want to make a change for asset management, for syndication, for many things, and to help people really understand how to do it well.
And think about the confidence that the investors will have, knowing that there are asset managers that are really watching
their
the
investment,
properties, watching and seeing what's going to happen, with the asset, and that are being proactive and not reactive.
Exactly. It's a huge shift.
Yes.
In the role. And it's something where I wish a lot of good things for the future asset managers. And,
yes.
I know we're doing our little part with it. And I know how much we've grown since 2022, from sitting at a dining room table to now we're in a podcast studio and we're recording this stuff. We're getting so much advice. I think that's what's great about you, that I appreciate, and you said it to me, is we're very open-minded and we're open to hearing feedback.
And we have gotten a lot of feedback, and we've also seen our own students grow.
Yes.
We've seen them become asset managers, and they, we teach the course on, on Wednesdays and now Thursdays. But on Mondays we have instructor hour, and there's so much discussion, and we see how they're growing and how they're learning. And we have students now that have properties, and they talk about what they're doing at their properties and what they have learned from not just the course, but what the course helped them come to understand and the choices that they're making and why they're making those choices. And so that's so fulfilling to see that.
It is. Like when we were very blessed to get that, even in our very first class.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
So when we were going through our class and those ladies were telling us like, oh my gosh, what you just taught, we're now going through it. And we just worked on that with our property manager, and it completely 180'd that whole conversation, the whole engagement, because they were going to fire that person.
Yes.
They were ready to fire that person. Then we were going over the asset management stuff. We're going over leadership stuff. And they're like, hey, we're going to apply what we're learning in class to speak with this person and show them the engagement of like, hey, no, we're here because we really value, we want to make this work. And then it was like then the property manager was like, oh, so that's okay. Yes. And it bought into it.
1 week.
1 week.
They took the lesson that they were taught and they applied it. Yep. And then the next week they reported back and said it completely changed.
Completely changed.
Yeah.
And that's not just a one. And there's other stories like that as well.
Yes.
So I remember we were doing a role play, and I remember, and that's something we teach in our classes. We do role play, like we just have to because it's so important. And I remember there was a student named Evelyn, and I was giving an example, and Evelyn's face like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm dealing with at my property. And I didn't know that at the time, but we were just doing the role play, and she was like, that's okay. I'm like, okay, wait. Now that I know that you're going through this challenge, time out. You're going to play the person. I'm going to play the person. We just role played it out. And I kind of walked her through, and she's like, that's going to really help me in my conversations moving forward with this property manager who said, like, I don't remember. It was something like everything's fine and we don't need to do that much and we're doing okay. Right. But obviously as an asset manager, you have most likely a different business plan, a different trajectory you want for the asset. And so the property manager is like, no, we're fine. I was like, no, we need to move it in this direction. You think it's fine. You're so used to this. No, we want to make it this because it has the potential to be this. And so again, I say it's a relationship business, but yeah, it's a very fulfilling to see our students come to us, whether it's right in the middle of class. And we just had another situation with our students in this last class, but I just know it's going to be very exciting for the future for Yin Yang.
Yeah.
It's going to change a lot of people's lives, multiple levels.
Yes.
The asset manager themselves, the fellow team members within that syndication, the GPs, and the LPs.
Yes.
So we have GPs are general partners, the people who are part of the ownership team.
Correct.
And then you also have the LPs, which is the limited partners. Those are the investors who are investing into the deal. Yeah. So this has such a huge win-win-win, yes. A domino effect. And that's what I'm excited for, Yin Yang. So I know we have a lot
happening.
I was say, I know we have some things in the horizon for Yin Yang. Obviously, one of them is the rebranding, I guess. The third time's a charm of our podcast. But as we mentioned in our last one, that we're perfectionists and this was the right timing. This feels good.
Yeah.
This feels really good on what we're doing. So what are some things that we can share? I know you mentioned one of them, how we've upgraded and now we've gone to 2 classes. So if you could talk about that, how that came about. And then what else do you foresee or what else would you like to see happen for Yin Yang?
Okay.
This 24 and 25. And there's no wrong, right answer. We're just chatting.
Yeah. Well, we do 2 classes now because we were doing just Wednesday night. And with the time change, sometimes it was really hard. We had people on the East Coast that it was very late for them. And also, when you do one night, if you have children that play soccer it's just hard. Yep. So we decided we would do 2 nights and 2 different times. So we have West Coast. We call it West Coast, but it's just because it starts at a different time on Wednesday, and then we have Thursday. So we have 6:00 on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And Thursday we start at 3:00 Pacific time.
Yep.
So if you're on the East Coast, that's 6:00 to you.
Yep.
So
exactly.
We tried to do it at 6:00, whether you're West Coast or East Coast, so that you could get home from work and get your family situated and be able to still.
But anybody can attend any class.
Yeah,
but the feedback was, hey, we're on the East Coast. You guys always start your class at 4:30, which is not really until 7:30 my time, and it's a 2-hour course. So we're barely, and sometimes we try to be respectful of the stopping and right on time, but sometimes things are just flowing. The conversation just flowing, the instructions going. So sometimes we go over, and that's 9:30, 9:40, 9:50. We don't want to go that late, but that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. So thank you to the students who have given us feedback and said, hey, can you do 2 days, or can you do a different time?
Yeah.
And so we felt it was needed to do 2 different days, 2 different times.
Right.
And then we also got feedback from our Hawaii students
Yeah.
too, because if it's too early, then it's like, well, that's too early for me, because they're 3 hours on the opposite side.
Correct.
They're 3 hours before us. So we already had a sign up for our next class from a Hawaii
Which is
student,
Hawaii.
which
Yes.
is Hawaii.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, for our next class coming up. But it's been really great to see the transition of yin yang. So we have 2 classes.
And it's the same.
It's the same class.
Same class, just whatever works for your time.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter where you live. You just pick whichever time's going to work best for you. And then we still have our Monday class. And we have not been recording that, but
That's new.
And that's new. We're going to be recording that.
What's the Monday class? You kind of briefly said
Yeah,
Monday
so when we do the classes in the evenings, it's just instruction. We don't really have a lot of time to expand. I mean, we do answer questions,
class. Right.
but it's a lot of teaching and a lot of knowledge that we're trying to, give the students. And then there's homework. And so they get the homework right after the class. It's usually the last slide of the presentation is the homework. And so they'll have the weekend to work on it. And then Monday is instructor hour. And so that's more of a free form. And so they can come and say, I'm stuck.
Right.
I don't understand. Like, I can't get the answer. They have the key, but they can't get to it. And so that is really important. And we haven't been recording it, but we have decided to record it
Right.
for people that, maybe can't make it to instructor hour, or maybe they need to see it again.
Right. It
Like,
just needs to sink
a
in a
couple of
little bit more. Yeah.
times to be able to go over it, especially when we're getting into deeper things like the scorecard, because the scorecard is pretty complicated, but so essential to help understand where the property is.
Yeah.
So we're going to be recording, so they get the recording of the class, and then they get the recording of the instructor hour.
And we made it a business decision about the recordings.
Yeah.
So that was something where previously we were not giving the recordings indefinitely
Right.
to the students. But again, I think it's important as leaders in our own business that we got feedback. And what was that feedback, and what we decided to do?
Well, the feedback was, I'm taking the class, but I'm not an asset manager. But in 6 months, I am.
Could be. Yeah.
I could be. And then I'm not going to remember exactly how to do it. And so we want to make it available to them when they are. And so for each session, they'll have a vault, and they'll be able to access the vault of their session through their account.
Yep. So if you are a student that has taken our class, we're going to give you some access very soon.
Yeah.
For our previous graduates, alumni.
Yeah.
So
even
they'll
the
have access.
alumni will have it.
The
yeah.
alumni will have access to their class period, not
Yes.
other class periods.
Correct.
But their class period. And I think that's really important for them, because again, not that we were trying to be malicious or anything like that when we first initially made that decision, but we just didn't want our stuff out there to anybody. And so
Right.
again, it's all about the feedback and what's the best and best interest of our students. And that was some great feedback. Like, hey, I'm not some of our students are in fact asset managers. They just
Yes.
happen to be perfect timing.
Yeah.
And it worked out. But for those individuals who haven't closed that deal yet, but they're going to. This is a perishable skill, and they need to practice this, and they need to role play. They need to remember how to do. What was that MMR stand for again? And what was that CapEx report or whatever CapEx project? What is the trackers? Things of that nature. So we just made the decision. We will give you the vault. We're calling it the vault. Access to the vault.
Yeah.
And they will be able to watch those recordings of your class period indefinitely while they have access to that. So
Yeah, and we did have one student this last session who wanted to become the asset manager, and we talked about how to do that, and he was able to transition
Yes, during the middle of our class.
during the middle of our class.
Shout out to him.
Yeah.
So now he's a full-fledged asset manager.
Yes.
And with another investment team, and that team was already established.
It was already established, and I remember him talking with me, and I coached him on, some things to point out to the GPs what he's bringing to the table, the value that he is, and he brought it to them, and they recognized that, and basically tapped him on the shoulder and offered it to him.
We want to hire you as our full-time asset manager.
Yeah.
For their investments.
Yeah.
Previously. Yeah. So that's amazing. So shout out to that person. That's great. He's now officially alumni in our group, and he'll always have access to us for feedback. And we've told that to all of our students that we're not something where you graduate, good luck. This is a close-knit group. We have an alumni Facebook group where they can come and ask us or other fellow students.
Yes.
Questions about that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we really can. I mean, we're working on a new classroom setting.
That is going to be super exciting.
Yes. So there's nothing wrong with our current system that's in place, but Ying Yang is growing. Our team is growing. Our marketing is growing, and so we must grow with it. And we felt that there needed to be a shift in the environment in the classroom setting. So we're now going to a new, I don't want to say it's a format, I guess. Platform. We're going to a new platform. So that'll be official for our next class, which is started in June.
Yes.
So that'll be exciting. That's new and exciting. We're going to be beta test. We have been starting to the idea and starting beta testing it.
Yes.
So that'll be good.
I think it'll be better for homework.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to make it the best is just the homework, just because now homework has been submitted email wise, and it's a little more cumbersome for maybe not the students, but for us, and us being able to give them feedback. And with the new platform, I think it'll be a little bit easier that way.
Yeah, because this platform,
we want to give them feedback.
Right. It's not just an email.
Yeah.
And I think that's something where the platform we're using is used across the country, like in different schools, like actual school board systems. Yeah. So that's what I'm really excited about, that we'll be utilizing that. So it's going to be a learning curve to do that, but that's part of growing.
We might need some grace.
But it's going to be good for everybody. Yeah. It's going to push us to what we need. When goals, I heard somebody say, if your goal doesn't scare you, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
And it needs to scare you.
Yeah, we've been scared a lot.
Yeah. But that means we're doing something right.
Yeah.
We're pushing ourselves, and we're pushing our students in the direction that they need to be pushed. And we've always said it. And, feedback is, we keep saying that, but we do feedback in the third or fourth class. We do feedback. And I've had some pushback, not pushback, but it's like, is that the right time? Do you think that's a little too early, Andrew? And I said, well, once I explain it to them, they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, if we don't ask in the beginning, we can't pivot. I mean, if we ask at the end, because then they've completed. But if we ask at the end and there's something that we could have changed sooner, it's too late.
It's too late.
So that's why we ask. We ask like the third or fourth week.
Yes.
Because then we can
how's
change.
it going? We recalibrate.
Yeah.
And then we could make sure it goes well. And then we just finished our class, and we're going to do like an exit interview. Yes. Because it's important for our students and ourselves as in our business to make sure that they feel heard, right? So we ask that, hey, third week, fourth week, how do you like it? How's the intro? What do you think? They give us feedback, and we try to implement that feedback for the remaining 8-9 weeks, right? And then at that point, now we've finished. Okay, now that we've had the full 12 weeks, what do you think? And hopefully our game plan is like, you know what, we really appreciated the class, and you took our feedback, and we're doing it well, and we can't wait for the future. And so that's what we ultimately want.
And then we've got a couple of classes that are in the works. Yeah. So that we've discussed, this is a class to help you be successful in the first year. Right. And so we are working on something else. Yes. That I think is needed. It is. Because can you become a doctor in one class? No. It's not realistic. Can you become a master plumber in one session? No. So we definitely want to make sure that there's, like I gave the analogy to you earlier, like there's an accounting 101, 201, 301. I think that's a good enough indication of what
we're working on, which is needed.
It is. There's a lot more to asset management, a lot more that we can cover.
Because there's just so much. Even the students say like, wow, that 12 weeks went by so fast.
Yes.
And it's so much information in 12 weeks. So I know we've talked about some additional higher education classes in asset management. There's stuff that we want to do. I call it the rock band tour.
Yes.
Cindy and I want to go on tour.
Yes.
And what does that look like? What are we going to do are we just going anywhere? Are we doing meetups? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think we'd like to be able to do meetups, to meet with other operators, be able to go and meet with asset management, do webinars, be able to in person. We do a lot of Zooms, but if people have conferences that they need maybe panelists, or we can talk about asset management.
Yep.
We want to be able to make ourselves available for that. So, yeah.
That's definitely something in our 1, 3, 5 year goals is we want to be on a panel at a particular conference. We want to be at speaking engagements and discussing the ins and outs of asset management, and even like our journey as the instructors of asset management.
Yes.
I think that's really important, what we can bring to the table. But yeah, I think that's something where when we say meetups, if we're going to a particular city or state for a conference of some sort, some people may or may not have the monetary means to go to that conference, because sometimes conferences are not $100.
Right.
These sometimes are $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, just depending on whichever the conference is. And so some people who are just getting started, they're like, no, we just want to rub shoulders with somebody who's in that area. And so, yeah, we definitely have been discussing like, okay, we're going to go to this conference, then we want to have a meetup of some sort and just collaborate with people and just be an ear. Somebody could say, hey, Cindy, I'm thinking of this idea, or I want to get involved with this team, or what do you think? Or Andrew, I'm having trouble with this property manager and I can't communicate with them and it's just not getting through, or I'm having problems with this project, or whatever it is. We can be there. Like it's different when you're face to face with somebody versus a Zoom of a networking call and there's 100 people in there.
Right.
You're not going to get the same engagement that you are going to have when you're rubbing shoulders. Yeah. So I feel like that, I call it the rock band tour, but I think that's something where if somebody's watching this and if you have a conference coming up that you think Yin Yang would be a good fit for us to be a part of, put a message to us and say, hey, we'd love to attend. And so we've definitely built a budget and a business plan to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So we are actively looking to be on podcasts, on a panel, to do a meetup in your area. So that's also part of 2024-25.
Yeah. Any chance we get to talk about asset management.
Yeah, we love it. It's a passion of ours. So, and there's other stuff too, but again, that's kind of in our own personal ownership vault that we will release when the time is right. I think that was it. I just want to talk about, how Yin Yang started, why is it so important to the industry, what are we doing for our students, and what's in the future for Yin Yang. So it's exciting times.
Yes, it is.
So stay tuned. Lots of things coming. Appreciate you guys tuning in today's podcast, and see you in class.
See you in class.